Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this Wednesday morning. Hope it's a great day where you are and you're ready to do some learning for our Be Relentless webinar series today. We've been talking about all sorts of different things in Business Development Week, and we have a bit of a different topic that we have not taken on so far. So I'm really excited about today's webinar. Lisa Lozano is here from Century 21. She is a regional coach, and she's talking to us today about objections you've never heard before. Lisa, we always say these are uncertain times. We've never been through this before, but I'm sure the same objections are coming up over and over again because everyone is so unsure. So thank you for being with us.
It's my pleasure. You're so right. I mean, gosh, I think in our industry, we hear a lot of the same objections over and over again, as you mentioned. But everything that we're going through right now with COVID-19, we're starting to hear a few different ones. But today's topic, or with the conversation we're going to go through today, will actually provide you with a system that you can either use during the objections we're hearing today or the ones that you typically hear. So I'm excited to be here.
Great, thank you very much. I will let you take over, and as always, if anyone has any questions, please type them in the question box at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, and when Lisa's finished presenting, we'll be able to ask her those questions.
Great, thanks, Lee. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to Owning Objections You've Never Heard Before. Several years ago, we did a study looking at the behaviors of some of the top producing agents. And what we found was that their number one trait was that they were relentless learners. And so I want to congratulate you because you're here today. So that obviously puts you in that group. We've been speaking to some of the top agents across Century 21, and now I am here to bring our research to you. During today's session, we are going to share what we've learned so that you can continue to grow your business now, while so many other agents are sitting at home on their couch thinking that they can't do business. And we know that that is not the case. So thank you again for being here. If I was gonna say we haven't had the chance to meet yet, but we probably haven't. My name is Lisa Lozano. I am a productivity coach with Century 21 Real Estate. And I am located over on the west coast of the United States in Vacaville, California. So not sure if you've been able to make a trip up here or not. I am located right between Sacramento, San Francisco. I started in the industry about 22 years ago as an agent with my local Century 21 office. I'm just so excited to be here with you today. As Lee mentioned, please, 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 ask your questions, share your thoughts, your aha moments, any comments, because your input really makes for a better session. So looking forward to what you have to say today as well. Okay, let's move forward. So as we think about it and as we look around us, homes are still selling, but the fact of the matter is that so many buyers and sellers right now, they're feeling pretty daunted, at least temporarily. They're not sure what's happening, what's going to happen. So they're feeling daunted by the prospect of committing to a move at this time, whether it's buying their home or selling their home. And one of the most important benefits of being able to own these objections is the chance for you to demonstrate your ability to lead. And this is extremely important right now with everything that is going on in our economy. Now more than ever, buyers and sellers need to feel confident with the real estate professional that they are choosing to handle their transaction. As we go through the presentation today, we will talk about some of the old tried and true traditional objections, as well as some of the newer ones that we're hearing today. We're going to go through how to create a benefit statement, and then developing skills moving forward so that you can go from stumbling over some objections to actually owning them. And the benefit to you is that you're going to be able to increase your confidence, allowing you to be prepared with the right talk track and assure that you have the best opportunity to gain the trust of buyers and sellers and win that listing every time. Can you see how this is going to help your business? I can only imagine that you can, and I hope you're excited about it. Why Is owning objections so extremely important? When we look at the definition of an objection, it's a counterpoint to a statement and or a belief. It implies continued interest and maybe a request for information. A lot of times though, we are looking at that objection as a rejection, that they're telling us no, when that's not the case. It means that they're just uncertain, they're not completely confident in the information that they're receiving, and so they have additional questions. So it's learning to recognize that objection as not a no, but as a statement of I need more information. And an objection handler is going to be that process for understanding that objection, taking the time to evaluating it, and then choosing a system so that you can get rid of it. So I'd like to see, I know I'm not going to actually be able to see your comments and thoughts at the moment, but the rest of you can. So what are some of the objections that you are currently hearing in today's marketplace? If you wouldn't mind going ahead and typing that up in the live news feed, and then when we come back around, Lee can share those with me. But what are some of the objections that you are hearing in today's marketplace? And when you look back on those, and when you look at the list of the ones that the folks may be typing up, when you had that objection come across to you, how did you handle it? Were you able to own it, or did it cause you to stumble? A lot of times, especially again in today's new world right now, or the last couple of months, you may have not necessarily been really prepared to handle that objection. And so it may have caused you to fumble over your words a little bit. One of the most important benefits to owning objections is that chance for you to demonstrate your ability to lead. Because as I mentioned, buyers and sellers, they want to feel secure with that agent that they're moving forward with. So when you stumble over objections, you are eroding trust a little bit. They're wondering, gosh, is this the right person to assist me with this huge transaction? This is going to be a really big move for me. And it's going to show possibly some of your skill gaps. Maybe you're not really aware of current data and what's happening under the current restrictions and everything that's going on. And so when you're stumbling, you're revealing those gaps. And then also stumbling creates those seeds of doubt. You know, if you can't handle what I'm doing, what I'm asking, what I need assistance with, what else is going to come up along the way during our transaction? When you're able to own those objections, it's clear that you care more, you know, that about yourself and earning that commission, that you really care about what's happening with this client is going to inspire their trust. It's also demonstrating your competence. You're not stumbling now, you know all the answers, you have the skills and resources to get the job done, and that's going to create the confidence. You're commanding the issues, and they are going to want to work with somebody like that. When we are faced with obstacles in handling our objections, there's two different ones that we typically see. I'm sure you're familiar with both of these terms, flight or fight. And flight means we are doing the best that we can to avoid those situations. We either ignore them or we accept and we just kind of turn around and we try to not address them at all. I think a really great example that some of you may feel is when you're going through the net sheet and you're kind of working your way down that net sheet and you're getting to maybe the commission line. And sometimes, and especially if you're new to the industry, that's a very daunting and scary. And so we know that maybe they're going to question us on that. They may have some objections, but the important thing again is to remember, it's not that they're questioning you or your ability or your value. They're not understanding your value. And so it's creating that statement leading up to that that's going to help you avoid that obstacle, that objection, so that you feel confident with that and that you don't want to run away from it. The other side of that is fight, where we become really defensive when they start to question us. And it's not something that's always going to physically show, but we sure are going to feel it. We're expecting it to happen. And when it does, and we're like, gosh darn it, I am worth every penny that we charge to handle this transaction. And so we can sometimes find ourselves responding with those aggressive words. And keep in mind, we have a quote here that says, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. So developing some skills to help us move from stumbling to owning is our head trash. I think we all have it. I like to say that when we are not talking to other people, we are talking to ourselves. And a lot of times we don't necessarily, let me go back here. We don't necessarily always have nice things to say to ourselves. And so the best that we can do is to recognize that and reframe our thoughts. But head trash, it's knowing that it's our subconscious, it's excuses and reactions, a lot of times to something that is new or outside of our comfort zone, and it feeds on our fears, and we begin to create these images in our mind that never really existed. And I'd like to take a moment and do a little exercise with you. Now, I know we're doing this virtually, and I know you all can see me. I can't see you, so I'm going to trust you with this one. So what I need you to do is I'm going to have you close your eyes, and I'm going to read you a list of words. And what I'd like you to do as I'm reading you that list of words is to visualize and create the images of those words that I'm reading to you. Sound like a plan? Okay, here we go. So close your eyes. Bed, rest, awake, tired, dream, wake, night, comfort, sound, slumber, snore. Okay, you can open your eyes. Now, I'm not sure if you have pen and paper sitting next to you. If not, you can grab your phone. Usually that's right near us, and pull up that little notes section to where you can take some notes. And what I'd like you to do is write down as many of those words that I just read to you that you can remember. So go ahead, take a moment. If you want, type them in the chat box. It's not a contest, so if your neighbor comes up with some additional words that you didn't think of, that's okay. Just want you to write down as many of those words as you can remember. Give you just another moment here. And again, this will kind of have to be on your honor. Used to some live chat, used to being able to have some conversation back and forth, but I really just wanted to demonstrate this to you. So how many of you on your list had the word bed? Obviously, we all can't see you, but that's okay. You know that answer. How many of you had the word bed? Okay. How many of you had the word snore on your list? Okay. And how many of you had the word sleep on your list? Now, typically when I'm doing this, at least 50 to 75% of the room or the class will raise their hand on that sleep word. But in all reality, sleep was not even one of the words that I read. And so it's really confusing. But what happened is that I created this paradigm in your mind of the word sleep. And had I not done that, that would not have been the word, one of the words that you came up with. So it's keeping in mind, again, our minds don't always necessarily focus on reality. They focus on thoughts and images that we put into our minds. I always like to share that exercise. As I mentioned, we get this head trash, and the best thing that we can do is to immediately recognize it and then reframe our thoughts. So as soon as you feel that self-doubt, that head trash coming in, you're gonna go, yep, there it is, it's back again. Create yourself a list or maybe even a little notepad of reframes, so that as you do feel them coming in, that you can immediately divert your thoughts to that, because you have 100% control of that. So when your head trash is letting that rejection and fear and you blame yourselves. And basically what that's going to do is hold you back. So stop yourself immediately and say, no, Lisa, that's not true. This is not about me. You know, selling this house is completely stressful, and this seller needs to ask more questions. They need to vent their frustrations, and I'm happy to be there to assist them and propose solutions for them. When your head trash is saying something like, well, gosh darn it, they don't understand that I'm worth 6%. Why are they questioning me? This is really frustrating. Stop yourself again and remind yourself that this is their home that they're selling. It's their money, it's their investment, and they have the right to ask. If you didn't do necessarily maybe a great job at communicating that, they're going to have questions. And so it is your job and it's your right to explain that information to them. The next part of this skill to move from stumbling to owning is recognizing your pain points. We are all different. Some of us work with buyers, some of us work with sellers, some of us live in a community where it's 100% shelter in place, some of us are not being affected at all. And so identifying what those objections and those pain points are for you personally. How many of you have had one or more buyers call to cancel their home purchase because they're not sure? Maybe the market crashed, maybe they're currently furloughed with their job. How many of you have had this happen? How many of you have sellers who are currently concerned with showing their property? They don't want folks coming through their home. They don't want inspectors coming through their home. So what are your particular pain points? That's what you need to identify. And then work on skill building. So again, when you're dealing with those areas of fight to flight response, learn to reframe, just like we discussed. If it has to do with competitive pricing, track your pricing trends. Gosh, I mean, even if you're not doing business right now, maybe you're not working with a lot of buyers and sellers, but you sure can be doing your research every morning, pulling that hot sheet, looking back at 2-3 months ago and see, do we have a drop in the business that's happening? Or maybe not, or maybe there's particular neighborhoods that are doing really well that we just weren't aware of because maybe we weren't tracking our pricing trends in our days on market, those types of things. And then if your buyer does have an inclination to cancel, again, knowing those recent local statistics could help them make a better decision for them. And it's not necessarily talking them into something that they shouldn't do, but being able to provide them with all that good information will help them make a better decision. My favorite excuse me, my favorite one is practice, practice, practice. And I think we are all aware of this, and we've heard many, many times, we should be practicing our talk tracks and scripting. We should be doing role playing. And a lot of us don't do it. I'd be interested to see, again, Lee, maybe over in that chat box, if anybody would type, are you practicing your scripting right now? Were you doing it before? And if you are, how often, and why is it that, how are you recognizing that this is something extremely important? One of the reasons I really like to stress this is because there's a really big difference between intellectual understanding and skill development. So just because, even if we've been in the industry a really long time and we know what we should say or when we should say it or how we should say it, doesn't mean when that moment comes to us that we're 100% prepared. Whereas if you took the time to practice them, they become a natural part of you, a natural part of the conversation, because all the information's up here now. And so, there's different ways that you can practice. First, you have to build out your scripts. And of course, initially, they're not necessarily going to sound like you, but never hesitate to rewrite them and put them in your own words. And what I like to do personally is I will go through with the recorder on my phone and I will record whatever it is that I want to start to learn and start to memorize. And I'll do it, 10-minute sections. And then what's nice about that is I can multitask. So if I'm driving in my car, I can be listening to my recordings. If I'm cutting vegetables for dinner, I can be playing my recordings if I'm putting my makeup on in the morning. So there's a lot of different ways you can do that, because practice is not fun and it gets really boring and old sometimes. So that was a way I found to do it that made it a little bit more bearable. So hopefully you'll take that suggestion and run with it. A lot of the times when we're doing our research, we, as I mentioned, interview top agents. And so anytime you may hear a word from the wise, this is an actual quote from one of our agents. And this one says, objections are not a bad thing. They're actually an opportunity to show your competence. When you own them, you stand out from the rest. Keeping in mind, most agents, I'm not going to say all, because there's a lot of agents out there who do practice their talk trips, who do know their information, who do research their data. But they're most, I would say the majority out there are not. And so when you have that opportunity to handle that objection, you're going to feel really great about yourself. The buyer seller is going to be really confident in working with you. And so again, if you look at that as an opportunity and not as something to be afraid of, I think you're going to be really proud of yourself. Okay, so here's some of the objections in the classes that I've been doing, and I'm not sure how many of these stand out to you, but sellers are definitely saying, I don't want anyone in my house. Should we wait for the market to improve before we sell our home? And are people even buying homes right now? Where on the buyer's side, some of the things that we're hearing is, is there a possibility of a housing crash with all the instability? Do I want to invest my money in purchasing a home if it's going to take a dive in value in the next 3 months? Should I be looking to buy under all the new circumstances? And in this market, here's one. In this market, the sellers aren't going to get great offers anyway, so I should make a really, really low offer. So some of the things to think about, and if you haven't been approached with one of these, keep in mind that there's a good chance that you might, just depending on what's happening. So we like to provide you with some tactics and tools as you're moving forward to help you overcome these objections. And we have provided 2 techniques. So you have one here is owning them before they own you. And that's going to be, again, knowing what those typical and standard objections are within our business, in our industry, in our area, and then owning them in the moment, because we don't always know. There's always a time where someone's going to catch us off guard, but if we have a format to follow and we're practicing it on a regular basis, you will have the ability to really get good at owning them in the moment. So some best practices for owning them before you. It will help definitely demonstrate your competence. It's going to save you time because you're answering a question possibly before the question was even asked. Owning them in the moment is only addressing them as they're necessary. We're not going to get off guard because we don't want to get caught off guard. So we do want to have a plan in place for when those come our way. Let's talk about owning objections before they own you. And what we have together here is a format to follow. And the first thing we want to do is identify the common objections. So when you look back to those pain points that you identified, is writing those down. What are your common objections? And then building your benefit statement. So the benefit statement has 5 components to it, where you're going to make a statement about that objection, acknowledge that it is important to the buyer and seller, explain to them how it's going to work, what is the benefit to them, and then getting the agreement. We're always looking for that head nod. Okay, and one of the best ways to being able to own the objections is to naturally and conversationally introduce them when they're going to resonate the most in your listing presentation or your buyer consultation. So here is an example of a benefit statement, and this one in particular is addressing pricing. It's addressing pricing. And I was going to say, if you want to maybe take a screenshot or a picture with your camera so that you have this format laid out for you with the statement, importance, how it works, benefit, and agreement. And you can always put a sticky note, a little Post-it note on your computer so that it's kind of always right there for you to look at as you're starting to practice more and more. So this one here, the statement was, the last subject we're going to cover is what the market is saying about this property. This is important to you because a pricing decision is the most critical decision you will make. My job is to provide you with the best information to make this decision, and I will lay out everything that you need to know. The benefit to you is having a complete understanding so you can make the smartest and most profitable decision. Can you see why this would be important? So again, I recognize that typically when we get to the end of our marketing presentation, we're going to be discussing price. And I'm letting them know, here we go, we're going to talk about this. And my job is to provide you with the best information possible, because a lot of times what we think that we should be pricing the home at is not the same as them. And so we're letting them know, gosh, we're going to provide you with this data so that you can make the best decision possible. Here's another one put together for that one that says, I don't want anybody in my home. It says, we are going to do a virtual open house for your property. This is important because even in these challenging times, we need to get your property exposed to as many potential clients as possible. Once your property is ready to be photographed, I will use those photos during a Facebook Live session for the public or invited guests, allowing visitors the opportunity to virtually tour your home. The benefit to you is we will not lose valuable marketing time and get in front of buyers who may be looking for homes right now. Does that sound good to you? So again, you can see all 5 levels of that statement, and you can do this with pretty much any conversation. Gosh, you could even do this in a personal conversation with your significant other, you know, telling them the benefits of maybe going out to dinner tonight instead of cooking at home. I mean, gosh, it's a little challenging for us right now in Northern California, but again, you can use these benefit statements in pretty much anything that you do. When we talk about owning objections in the moment, we're going to focus more on something that you've heard about probably is the feel, felt, found. So step 1 of this particular format is to clarifying, you know, what I heard you say is, and then step 2 is showing that empathy. I understand how you feel. The third part will be, you know, letting know that they're not alone in this and that other people have felt the same way. Because we're telling them other people have felt the same way, let's tell them what they found. Let's share that evidence. And then the step 5, again, is getting that head nod, getting that agreement. Do you agree? Can you see why this is important? And here is an objection using the feel, felt, found. And this is one that says when they want to list their home at a higher price for a couple of weeks. So if I'm hearing you correctly, you would like to list your house at a higher price to see if I could bring a higher price in, correct? I totally understand how you feel. Many sellers have asked a similar question, but what they have found is that there are some risks to this strategy. First, the right buyer might not go see the house because of the higher price range. Second, there might need to be a price reduction, and often the market reacts negatively to that, which often increases the time on the market. Bottom line, it can delay your close, which in turn could impact the nets into your pockets. Can you see why the risks of this strategy? Can you see how there are risks to this strategy? Another one I wanted to show you, just doing a little bit of a different example. I'm not sure, gosh, if you guys have home warranties in Canada. We do here in the United States. And so this is an example of when the seller does not want to pay for a home warranty in the transaction. If I'm hearing you correctly, you prefer not to spend any additional money by including a home warranty in the sale of your home. I totally understand how you feel. Many sellers have felt the same way. But what they have found is that there are some risks to this strategy. First, a malfunction in the home after close of escrow. You don't have to worry about getting a phone call insisting that you are responsible for the repair. It can also be a great marketing tool. Potential buyers will appreciate the peace of mind a home warranty can bring. Can you see why providing a home warranty can be beneficial to you? Again, just taking, this was more of the feel, felt, found. So wrapping things up here, we're going to go to questions here in a few minutes. I wanted to share another word from the wise from you, and it says, I welcome objections because they let me know the person is engaged in our conversation. The key is to listen to their concerns, understand their perspective, and have the words to educate them from another perspective. So we went over today a couple of different things. First, identifying, recognizing pain points, identifying any objections that you have heard in the past or that you may be facing today. And we came up with 2 different strategies in overcoming those. It's going to take some time and some homework from you to go through and build out your talk tracks and scripts and actually practice those. But hopefully you'll be able to take those and really build something out, because this is a time where you really, really have an opportunity to choose whether you want to be the agent that's at home on the couch thinking you can't do business, or making those phone calls, reaching out to folks, checking in on them, and potentially leading to a real estate conversation and being prepared to handle those objections. I would like to thank you for participating in today's session. And before we go, see, Lee, if we have any questions or comments in the chat box.
Thank you very much, Lisa. We had a few people putting those objections in, and then you managed to cover them. So that was great about I don't want people in my home. And we've had people saying not enough inventory to buy now. Prices are going down on big homes, so I'm okay to lose a little bit on my smaller home because I might be able to get it at a different price. Also, people saying I want an accepted offer before allowing people in my home. Any suggestions on how to navigate that?
Sure, and it's not necessarily covering the objection, but a suggestion from what things that I've heard, in doing a lot of online sessions is people are getting really creative. They may not necessarily, so it's doing those virtual tours. It's even sometimes having the seller do the video for you, give them some instruction. They tend to a lot of times know what those special features are of their home. You can maybe find some instruction on how to give them some good guidelines on doing a good video. But honestly, we've even seen appraisers sitting outside and letting the seller walk through. So just every area is different, every county, different things like that. But you're seeing a lot more homes being sold sight unseen. And I think this is a really good opportunity. I feel like in our industry, we have had this technology in our back pocket forever, and we've known, yeah, I should be doing video, but we tend to want things perfect, and folks don't need things perfect right now. This is a way for us to communicate, interact, and so step outside of your comfort zone and use that technology. And then when you have those answers, then you can create the benefit statement that we just talked about.
Great points. We have another one that's not actually related to the current pandemic, but it's another objection. I have a friend or relative in the business. I will have to use them as my realtor.
Yes. Well, that might be a feel, felt, found, and where you could say, gosh, I understand how you feel. Many other folks have felt that way in the past, but what they found was, and I think there's a lot of times it's maybe talking about the conflict, but that's a touchy one. And so you want to make sure that you are not offending anybody. Sometimes it's a matter of just kind of continuing to stay in the background and keep in touch, because sometimes they will find, maybe they'll do a great job, but at other times they may become really, really frustrated with what's happening. But that's a touchy one.
It is a tough one, and yeah,
I would say use the feel, felt, found one on that one.
Okay, great advice. Those are all the questions that we have for today. So thank you very much, Lisa. We appreciate it.
Oh my gosh. Sorry. I was going to say it's such an honor sharing this time with you. And I wish you all really continued successes. I know you're going to do a great job. And until next time, stay healthy and productive. But yes, thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you so much, Lisa. We are going to be back again tomorrow. As always, Thursday, we have a guest who's joined us previously, who's coming back, Kevin Cochran from the Enriched Academy, talking about finances and your business development, how to prepare your finances during COVID-19. So he will be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. And then we have another mastermind session with some of our Century 21 network in Canada, talking about business planning and things that you can be doing. That is coming up on Friday. I just want to give you a heads up about Monday, because I know it's a long weekend in about half of Canada, but some of you don't have a long weekend. So we will be back here on Monday with a webinar as well, but it's going to be a little bit different than what we've done in the past. So stay tuned for details on that. We will break for today, but we will see you back here tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.